Our final week 15 positional rankings. Yes, quarterbacks, tight ends, and I'll say more importantly, kind of a game by game preview through that quarterback lens. So, tons of important matchups this week. I mean, handful of games, Hayden, that in any previous week could have been the game of the slate. And that includes the Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. So we'll kick things off with your quarterback one. That is Josh Allen. You kind of talked about it in that Cincinnati Bengals contest, where in moments, Josh Allen obviously just puts the team on his back. That's always been in December for him. He's averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game in December, the highest scoring month of his career.
Wow. So we have like a Derrick Henry situation going on with Josh Allen. I didn't realize that. Yeah, for the Patriots defense, they have definitely been missing Milton Williams against the run. So I think that is one avenue where the Bills kind of keep the chains moving, is like keep this really balanced approach. And then I also think that they can kind of beat up this kind of more physical defense, like the kind of a slow safety and linebacker group with either plays on the run from Josh Allen or with some Khalil Shakir and some big Dalton Kincaid stuff. So I think schematically for the Bills, I actually do like them against New England here, because like Christian Gonzalez is awesome, but the Bills don't throw to their outside wide receivers already, so it doesn't really matter there. And the pass rush is pretty mediocre, and they have both tackles I think are going to be able to play in this one for Josh Allen. So I actually think that despite the numbers looking good for New England's defense, I actually think that the Bills kind of match up well against them.
I was going to bring up that pass rush because we've seen the most difficult games Josh Allen has had this year, like the Houston Texans, because they have insanely athletic edge rushers that on these extended plays are kind of faster than Josh Allen at closing down the space. That's not going to be the case against the Patriots. Like this Patriots team is overperforming whatever trajectory that they've been on, over these last few years. It's been an awesome first season with Vrabel and McDaniels and Maye and everyone else, right? But they still have weaknesses in the roster. We talk about their blocking on the offensive line in terms of the run game. And then I would say on defense, it's still pass rusher, edge rushers, and they're kind of making do with other teams' trash and turning into some productive players. In the first time these teams played, Josh Allen had 9 carries for 53 yards. I mean, that was with Milton Williams on the field. That was, I think, with Harold Landry on the field. And then now I'm looking at the Pick'em lobby. It's at 36.5 rushing yards. So again, now we're in December. I love the higher on that 36.5 rushing yards here for Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's almost like a little playoff game for them. Obviously, they're trying to make ground in the AFC East if they can catch up. Yeah, I think also just there's a big game for pride right now. Like I think the Patriots are pissed off because they're home dogs, and then the Bills are pissed off because they lost to the Patriots already. So I think this one's going to be fascinating, and break glass in case of emergency is Josh Allen running the ball.
I also went back and watched some of that first game that they played, and there were 2 just terrible fumbles in the first quarter by the Bills. There was one that was like hit off motion, just kind of a miscommunication that then the Patriots just picked up, and then Keon Coleman inside of his own 20-yard line fumbled after the catch.
I remember that one.
So if you just like don't have those, to me, that's an entirely different game. Now, I'm not saying, the Bills aren't going to turn the football over, because it happens to just about every team out there, but just don't do it in the first quarter and let's see what happens. All right, Matthew Stafford against his old team in Detroit. This is your quarterback 2 on the week. Rarely do like pocket passers, like true statues, make it and rank this highly. Well, it's also because Matthew Stafford is just throwing like 3 or 4 touchdowns every single week.
Did want to bring this up. I think this is a fantastic quarterback 1 week, and it's a hard one without a big discrepancy after Josh Allen, because the teams with the statue quarterbacks are projected for 30 points. We'll get to Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, more of your statue quarterbacks. And then the next group in projected points are more of your dual threat types. And obviously those are going to round out the top discussions here. So extremely flat tier. All these guys project for just about the same amount in the Pick'em lobby. For Matthew Stafford, no Brian Branch is a huge deal. It's a Pro Bowl safety, Terrion Arnold, and then at corner. And then I think they're just going to rule out Kirby Joseph, a free safety. They just don't have enough bodies to defend what Matthew Stafford and McVay are kind of dicing up. So they're projected for the most points on the week. And I think right now they're more likely to score 40 than 20. And that's probably the only team I would say that for in the NFL right now.
Well, you can't say it about the Ravens offense, but Lamar Jackson still ranks as your quarterback 3. This is on the road in Cincinnati. 10.3 rushing points last week was the most he's had in a game since week 1. I think you see that visually too. I mean, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, his lateral burst, I thought his lateral agility wasn't there. And you could also see him, I mean, really picking his spots in terms of choosing to run. Very hesitant. I wouldn't say that was the case last week. Now, it's also a rematch of Thanksgiving. And that was not a good Lamar Jackson performance. And they have to win and then also beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in order to have a chance here the rest of the way.
Yeah, I see the same way. I think that he's probably 80-90% of himself in terms of health, which is still awesome versus everybody else. He's, I think, running a little bit more than he otherwise would have earlier on. Even if he's like kind of like hobbling to the huddle afterwards. There's just really no excuse here. We're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. No Trey Hendrickson. I think Shamar Stewart's going to get ruled out here as well. So there's no pass rush. And their linebackers and safeties have been getting picked apart the entire season. And on that Thanksgiving game, he was missing throws. And I think that right now his like feel for the game feels off. And I'm sure that's somewhat correlated to the injury. But also in that game, that was Isaiah Likely fumbling at the end zone, and then also like some fumbles and stuff. So that was a kind of a chaotic game. The reality is there's no excuse for Lamar Jackson at this point. Like, he seems healthy enough, even if he's not 100%. And the Bengals can't stop anybody right now. So the reality is he's projected for 21 points in the Pick'em lobby. That's exactly the same as Matthew Stafford. Everybody else that we're going to talk to is lower. So I hate ranking him this high because he's been nowhere near this for quite a while. But then you start looking in at it, like they're projected for 27 points. It's the freaking Bengals. Like, I have to rank somebody this high.
Well, here's why it could be different this week than it has been in previous weeks, because the Ravens all season long have been one of the worst red zone teams in the league. Lamar Jackson, 12 of 32 passing since returning in week 9 in the red zone. That could be entirely different when you face a defense like the Cincinnati Bengals, especially when the Ravens' entire passing attack in the red zone is built off of Mark Andrews, and it's against a defense that can't cover tight ends.
Yeah. I have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely as high as I possibly can in the tight end stuff.
Drake Maye is your quarterback 4 on the opposite end of that Buffalo Bills matchup. He's only scored fewer than 15 fantasy points one time this season.
Wow.
And Joey Bosa, who is like the figurehead of this pass rush for the Buffalo Bills, is extremely questionable, it feels like, to play in this contest. I mean, just on top of that, without Bosa, the Bills were second to last in the league in pressure rate last week. So that is a key part of them keeping Drake Maye from hooping and balling out there.
Yeah, the Bills have been like around league average on defense right now, but no Ed Oliver, Bosa, and Christian Benford, and that's kind of how I'm projecting it at this point, looking at the injury report. That's probably the 3 best defensive players. And I feel like they're going to be a little bit too slow, and Drake Maye, I think, is going to be able to throw it over the top. They're getting Jared Wilson back at guard, at least. Still no Will Campbell, but Drake Maye has been awesome. He sees the game so clearly. Josh McDaniels is also coming off of a bye week too. There's some familiarity here. So I don't think the Bills are going to really surprise them. I think the Patriots are going to be very prepared, and they have a lot of ways that they can kind of beat you at this point because they got some depth at tight end and different types of bodies at wide receiver. So I think the drop off from Christian Benford to the backups is a big deal. And I would say the same thing for edge rusher and defensive tackle for the front line.
I mean, when they get pressure, they are one of the best teams in the league. 40% completion rate, all that type of stuff allowing. I just am uncertain if they can do that without Joey Bosa. Brock Purdy all the way up as your quarterback 5. This is coming off of a bye week. He's quarterback 10 in consensus rankings, so you're much higher than them. Why?
Well, they're projected for the second most points. Pass funnel Titans defense. Everyone's healthy aside from Brandon Ayuk, if we even think that he's, in the Bay Area at all, which doesn't sound like it. But Brock Purdy played his best game since his injury before the bye, and then hopefully coming out of the bye, his toes starting to feel a whole lot better. Because I missed some of the scrambling that we would get from Brock Purdy. The plays out of structure kind of went away for a second, but I think that they should come back here. They're projected for 28.5 points at home for a reason. So I'm moving down a couple spots, but we'll get with the correct rankings here in a second.
Yeah. Titans have allowed a quarterback 1 score in 7 straight games, according to Rich Rebar. And that includes a 33.5 point total to Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur.
Last week.
Yeah. Feel good about this.
This is also where, Brock can balance out where he's been throwing interceptions, 7 of them on 10 plus air yard passes and just 1 touchdown there. So maybe we get 6 touchdown passes of 10 plus yards down the field. And that goes back to 7v7.
The other thing is on the Shedeur last game, a Tennessee linebacker, Cedric Gray, picked up the ball on the 2-point conversion play. And I thought he was going to get a 2-point conversion the other way. And then just stopped running because he was so slow and tired. And I was like, okay, that guy's going to be chasing, George Kittle around. I'm nervous about that guy.
Dak Prescott against the Minnesota Vikings is your quarterback 6. So often this Brian Flores defense can cause confusion and, pressure moments against inexperienced quarterbacks. Dak Prescott is on the opposite end of that.
Definitely so. I think I have full faith in the Cowboys being prepared for Brian Flores. Did want to note Tyler Guyton, their left tackle, is not practicing. Jake Ferguson, I think, is going to gut it out, but he hasn't really practiced much. The good news is CeeDee Lamb is back, going to clear concussion protocol. And we talked about that on the wide receiver rankings show. He's just going to get targeted a bunch because if they bring a lot of pressure and keep 2 safeties down the field, then you have to live in the yards after the catch in completion percentage world. And I just think that they can do that here. So I'm moving him ahead of Brock Purdy. That's one of the guys I have ahead. Super high team total at home, no weather. The rest of the country's in a frozen tundra. So we got to pick our battles here.
Okay. Joe Burrow is your quarterback 7. Did want to mention there's a bunch of yellow according to Kevin Roth and his weather reports right now. This is one of those games. I'll try to mention the other ones as we go through. Quote, temperatures in the teens. There is some slight correlation between extreme cold and scoring, though it's not as pronounced as the correlation between scoring and high winds. Is there anything you want to add for Burrow against this Ravens secondary and defense after, I would say, some curious comments from Burrow this week?
Yeah, what was your take on the comments? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. I get it.
I think you can read between the lines in numerous ways. The first one, I think Joe likes to toe the line between being mysterious and cool.
For sure.
The other one is, if I was in his position, I would be infuriated that I'm a member of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
And at some point, it just kind of, at some point, it just, when you're talking in front of reporters once or twice or 3 times a week, you probably run out of things to say and how to say them. And I'm sure his frustration, maybe he just got to that point in the day where it just came out in that way. So I understand it.
Yeah. And then not having T. Higgins is not going to help here. I did want to note that Schefter was this is a big deal in league circles. So I don't know if that's Andrew Luck. Is he going to be an early retiree situation, or is he going to force the Bengals to trade him? I don't know the contracts and anything like that. But that
I would guess the latter more than the former.
Yes, most quarterbacks want to keep playing. He makes a good amount of money and he loves ball. But yeah, I get it. He's super frustrated. He's coming back from a toe injury really early, and playing excellent football, and then still couldn't get a win against Josh Allen in the snow. And he was fantastic in that game. So I get it from him.
The reason why I would say the latter more is because, he could have just set out all the season and he was just no, I want to play with my boys. I want to play with my guys. I want to get back there on the field. So despite all these injuries, I don't think it's the end of the road of him playing, but I could see it being just, hey, Cincinnati, I appreciate us having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but everything else is in total shit. And I have to score 45 points to have a chance on a weekly basis.
Yeah, he will most likely be under contract with the Bengals next year. It's hard to trade his contract, but I think that he's maybe just planting a little seed of hey, have you noticing the Cincinnati's Bengal thing is not that great. For this week though, team total is rock solid at 24.5 points. They are at home. They still have a mathematical chance of making the playoffs, and they're trying to go beat a rival in the Ravens. And the Ravens really can't rush the passer right now. And their secondary has been a little bit kind of up and down. I think that Marlon Humphrey is not as good as where he was before. So I do think they're gettable, and Jamar Chase goes crazy against them typically. So they're going to miss T. Higgins, but Joe Burrow was such an assassin against the Bills, aside from those 2 nickel blitzes, and then the 1 defensive tackle getting his paws on it. Other than that, it was almost a flawless game from Burrow.
Jalen Hurts is next as your quarterback 8. I think it would be very 2025 Eagles and very Jalen Hurts for him to have an outstanding performance in a game that no one is watching and it doesn't matter, and him to throw for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns here against a secondary that is kind of shaped
Joe.
and aligned for him to take advantage of in terms of single high usage.
Yeah, single high. The zone stuff kind of gets Jalen Hurts, but it's a lot of like vanilla stuff from the Raiders. They just placed a corner on injured reserve on top of that. So there's really just no excuses here. You got to pass protect against Max Crosby, but every team knows how to, get some chip help and send some other guys his way because the rest of the defensive line is really bad. So this is a no excuses game. The team total is up at 25 points for Jalen Hurts. So if he stinks it up here, that would be concerning. Did at least appreciate the Eagles trying to throw the ball on crossing routes and stuff, because like it's so hard to go on a run if you're not even throwing the ball over the middle. It ended up in a bunch of interceptions, but I appreciated the effort.
Yeah, something was posted here on Friday that I'll find. It's from Brooks Kubena that I'll send over to producer Weaves. Basically, it's just matching the eye test of the top 10 quarterbacks since 2020. Jalen Hurts, when throwing over the middle, is just as efficient as those other guys, but he throws over the middle half as often.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Half as often, which again, it lines up. And the reason why, and it's interesting to hear people's versions and conclusions as to why he doesn't. In that span, we've seen, like Shane Steichen to Kellen Moore to Brian Johnson to, now Patullo. And it's just Jalen Hurts doesn't want to throw there. It's that simple. And it's a coach's job. And that's why maybe under Moore and under Steichen, he has thrown there a little bit more often, because they're good coaches and they like give him the comfort and almost like pull it out of him and say, hey man, we have the confidence to do this. But when the team has no confidence and they're fighting and all this type of stuff, then he's probably just not going to do it as often, despite having, one of the best throws of his career last week.
Yeah, that was an awesome throw. I think that a lot of it too is throws over the middle. While they're efficient, they also lead to turnovers. And when the Eagles have been so good the last couple of years, Jalen Hurts was not turning the ball over.
Well, he's terrified of turning the football over.
Right. But now I think because the team's not as good and like they can't run the ball, now you actually have to play, all right, we got to take our chances over the middle before, because we can't just say, hey, we're not going to turn the ball over, we're still going to win. It's like, no, we're not turning the ball over and we're still losing some games because like our ground game's not as good and we're just not as efficient. So I wonder if like all of a sudden the calculus is like no longer, hey, we don't turn the ball over, we win. Now it's like, oh no, we actually have to go play some offense for real. So maybe they kind of dial up some of the pros and cons of throwing over the middle.
I'm sure you guys have all heard about Harry's. For me, I know I use their body wash, spring scented. Also the beard and face wash as well. These are my go-tos on a daily basis, but we also need razors, don't we? And for many people out there, you look online, you look in the drugstore, you see, I don't know, $30 for 8 refills. I mean, that's a total scam. Instead, you need to be trying Harry's Plus. I mean, there's all these things I could talk about with Harry's Plus, but this one caught my attention. They own their own world-class blade factory in Germany. The same facility has been perfecting blade making for over 100 years. I mean, they get to control the entire process here. It's a smooth, clean shave on top of everything. So again, if you've been searching for razors or thinking of changing the one that you use, for a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/the show. The set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/the show to claim this offer. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard it from. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. All right, here's Jaxson Dart. He's your quarterback 9 against the Washington Commanders. What are you expecting this week?
Well, it's the first game of his young career where he did not have a quarterback designed carry. He did still scramble a handful of times. So I did the math. If I took away all of his quarterback design carries across the season, he would have 19 fantasy points per game, which would be the quarterback 7. So he's still getting it done. Like even like as valuable as the quarterback design stuff is, it's still not the only thing that's like raising the floor and ceiling of his profile. He's throwing the ball down the field, which is super, super valuable, and he scrambles a ton. And I don't think that he's going to stop scrambling all of a sudden. So on top of that, you're at home here. The Commanders are missing their top 2 corners. Their fill-in corner, Jonathan Jones, isn't practicing either. So I think there's like a lot of good reasons to start Jaxson Dart. So even though the team total is a little bit lower than some of the other quarterbacks, I still think that he's going to scramble a ton.
The temperature freezing with 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. Yeah, there's so much yellow. I wonder if any of these shift to green to orange when we get to Sunday. Again, that's why you need to turn into the start sit show.
I was at the beach
Sunday
yesterday,
morning.
by the way. Southern California, pristine 70 degrees. Going back today.
Patrick Mahomes against the LA Chargers. When he was pressured last week, Patrick Mahomes, and not just him, drops are included here. 3 of 15 for 62 yards and an interception. But overall this year, he's completed, I should say he's 28th in completion rate when pressured overall. This Chargers team are different pass rushers when Khalil Mack is involved, and especially when, this Chiefs offensive line is totally beaten and banged up here.
Yeah, so backup left tackle Wanya Morris left last week. He's not going to play here. Juwan Taylor hasn't practiced. We'll see about him. I think Trey Smith has a chance to return at right guard, so that's a little bit better. Jesse Minter's kind of slowed down Patrick Mahomes. So they faced each other 3 times. He's had 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown in those 3 contests. Max of them was 258 passing yards. Chargers play a lot of cover 3, a lot of quarters coverage that forces a lot of underneath throws. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are typically okay with just like living and with a 14 play drive, work the ball underneath. But Chargers are also just very good. So top 5 in both EPA and success rate against passes. So by no means is it an easy game for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But he's still scrambling a ton. And I think his tape is still extremely good.
Yeah, I mentioned this in the wide receiver show, but they played week 1. Rashee Rice was suspended. Then Xavier Worthy left after 2 plays because he collided and destroyed his shoulder for the entire season. Mahomes, as you said, career high already, 400 plus rushing yards this season. His rushing total right now on Underdog is 21 and a half. I mean, I am taking that. I low key love doing rushing pick'em selections here with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I absolutely
later in December and January.
Yeah.
I love it.
Gotta have it in terms of like playoff games are right now for all of these teams. If you want to join me over on Underdog, again, promo code the show. That's in the description down below. Play $5. We'll send $75 in bonus cash in your direction. Trevor Lawrence has been a huge fantasy asset as of late. And now he gets the New York Jets and is like a 13-point favorite in this game?
Yeah, they're projected for the 4th most points on the week for Trevor Lawrence. So there's, like I said at the beginning of the show, there's really is no difference, I would say, between, I'll say, like Drake Maye, Dak Prescott, kind of in that tier, and Trevor Lawrence is almost no difference at all. Pick'em Lobby sees it the same way. He's projected for 18.4 fantasy points. Jets rookie corner Az Thomas, he hasn't practiced. Their slot corner Jarvis Brownlee went to injured reserve. They traded Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams, so we're left with a bunch of dust balls on defense for the Jets. It sounds like Walker Little's going to come back from concussion. That's a left tackle for them. And Trevor Lawrence runs a little bit, and that was the best ball I've seen him play. So a lot of like big, Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball to the sideline and down the field, it looks pretty, and they found the correct answers throwing the ball over the middle where he's been far more inconsistent. But I think it's a good spot for him here.
Well, again, I'll bring up who they played this year too. And obviously it's been rocky, but they played the Texans twice, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, some other of the best defenses in the NFL. And we're at this point where, the Jaguars are propelling themselves to a home playoff game, which is pretty sweet to watch.
Real quick, let's move Brock Purdy ahead of Jaxson Dart, and then you can put Jalen Hurts behind Dak Prescott.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's boom.
Okay. Jared Goff is your quarterback 12. This is at the Los Angeles Rams. Do you think Sean McVay has walked into Chris Shula's office a couple times this week and been like, hey, buddy,
he sucks at
Jared
this.
sucks at this, and this is why we traded him away?
Yes, probably so. But at the same time, Jared Goff is just a better player than he was with Sean McVay at this point in his career. Mentioned this, according to Sumer Sports, they have splits against single high and two high. The Rams play a lot of two high zone defensive looks. And against those, the Lions are first in EPA per drop back. And right now, the Rams, They have nobody in the secondary right now. Like they're just running out of talented players in the secondary. So as much as they can kind of coach them up, at the same time, you got to have the players to do it. So I think that JMO looks excellent. The speed of JMO is going to matter here. And then a Monra against 2 high zone looks historically goes crazy. So it all just comes down to, could the interior line hold up against the Rams? They've got like 3 or 4 dudes on the interior that could really provide the heat. So I think that's the big part of the matchup. But I think Jared Goff looks really clean here.
CJ Stroud is your quarterback 13. This is in a dome, which is very nice. He's also quarterback 19 in consensus rankings. So what gives you the confidence to be 6 spots higher than the public?
I think he's making more plays. They found the right pass protection right now, and the best it's going to get. And the Cardinals are missing a starting corner, 2 starting safeties right now. And I think that they just found some more answers with the new offensive coordinator. Nico Collins has been balling out too. So I'm just kind of siding with the team total where they're up at 26 points. They're at home in a dome. No yellow weather-based matchups that we have to talk about. So they're top 8 in scoring this week. And CJ Stroud's obviously at the center of it.
Marcus Mariota, some older legs, but he will still use them and run around. I'm assuming why that makes him your quarterback 14.
Well, if you only look at his starts, Marcus Mariota has been the quarterback 15 this season. And I mentioned his stats for the last couple of years are better than you'd think. He's pushing the ball downfield more than he ever has before. And that's helpful when you have quality tackles, which they do in Washington. And then also Terry McLaurin looks fully healthy. The Giants keep firing coaches. They keep benching players in the secondary. 2 defensive linemen are expected to miss, a defensive tackle, and then Kayvon Thibodeau for the Giants. So they're going to miss Zach Ertz, but everything about this I like with Marcus Mariota. I think he's like truly trying to bridge the gap to being a starting quarterback in 2026. Like that's the state of the NFL, and we're running out of bodies here. But I think that there's a chance he's going to be a starting quarterback next year, and he's got to finish strong for that to be a reality.
All right, Sam Darnold at home gets this Indianapolis Colts destroyed defense. No Sauce Gardner, no Travis Ward, no DeForest Buckner, and then Sammy D just able to sling the rock down the field. And that can only need for 1 half, because we know he can throw 2 or 3 touchdowns in a single half like he did last week.
Yeah, sometimes it's in the second half after a quiet first half, but he's been getting it done this year. 3rd highest team total on the week. Maybe a little bit of rain in this one. We're going to have to wait till Sunday to get that ironed out, but they're projected for 28 points. The top 2 corners for the Colts are out. No DeForest Buckner, which is a huge deal because the Seahawks' lone weakness right now is like kind of their right guard. Everything else looks pretty good on offense. So Sam Darnold, even with the Seahawks, top 3 in scoring, top 4 in scoring, he's been a quarterback 2, but he can have some quarterback 1 moments. So I think this is kind of like where I would draw the line of you want at least one of these guys. And if you're in super flex, you got 2 of these quarterbacks, you're in really good shape.
You know, the defenses are good when like Jordan Love and Bo Nix, the first one is ranked at quarterback 16. Yep. That is Jordan Love here, despite being on the road in Denver. Here's a question. Who do you think has the edge? Broncos pass rush versus the Packers offensive line? And then who do you think has the edge between the Packers Packers wide receivers and the Broncos secondary?
I definitely would take the Broncos pass rush over the Packers offensive line. I would even say that like the talent for the secondary, I would still take the Broncos side of it, but Jordan Love has just been so good that like I'm not sure how much it like really matters. Like he just doesn't get as many dropbacks and he doesn't scramble around. So he's better, way better in real life than he is in fantasy. So we felt that where he's been a quarterback 2, he's about like the quarterback 16 this year. But he's first in EPA per dropbacks. Like he's one of the biggest gaps between in real life versus fantasy.
Okay, let's talk about Caleb Williams and the Bears against the Cleveland Browns defense. This might be the most weather that we have seen so far. I mean, there are suggestions that it's 10 degrees with a negative 10-degree wind chill. That is nasty stuff here, especially for where's Caleb from?
Washington.
Yeah. Okay.
Like DC.
Okay. Well, It
It gets
felt
cold
man.
there.
Yeah, he's felt it. And then obviously Shedeur on the other side has played at Colorado and these places. Anyways, let's talk about Caleb here, because no matter what, positive trajectory this season. He does have up moments in games and very down moments. We're going to get Myles Garrett up against, Ozzie Trujillo. We're going to get Myles Garrett up against Darnell Wright. We're going to get, we've seen Caleb, shirk away these sack attempts and these big time pressures. Is that going to be possible against this Browns defense? Because some of his best, I would say, moments are in those, especially off scrambles.
Yeah, obviously way harder when Myles Garrett's the one kind of chasing you down. Their left tackle, that's a big problem, versus Myles Garrett. And I think the other big thing is the point spread is fairly wide here. It's over a touchdown. And the Bears can really run the ball, that all of a sudden there's some games where Caleb doesn't have to drop back as often.
Yep.
And then you mentioned how damn cold it's supposed to be. So he's been the quarterback 12 in fantasy for the season. I think this is definitely a worse matchup in general. So I moved him down a tier.
I think your train of thought is exactly where I should have gone to lead this, that Ben Johnson's going to know Browns really have nothing to play for. And we do. And we're going to, from series 1, freaking run the football and just try to break the will of a team that, are 8-point underdogs against us. And when it's very cold, trying to chase these, wide outside zone to inside zone, all these types of runs. I think that's the formula here for the Bears.
Yep.
All right. Bo Nix on the opposite end. Green Bay Packers defense. I mean, there's going to be, I think, 2 to 4 gotta have it Bo Nix plays. He's been up and down, to say the least, on those this season.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does have in his favor is that he is one of the best quarterbacks in not allowing pressures to turn into sacks. And then it has to sustain itself here against Micah Parsons and the Packers pass rush.
And the Broncos offensive line really doesn't even have a weakness too. So sometimes they'll move Micah Parsons into the A gap to get go against some bad guards. That's not the case with the Broncos. So I think they'll have a better plan against Micah Parsons than anybody. Sean Payton also gets great in the quick game, the screens and all that type of stuff. So I think you're going to pick an offense who's most insulated against someone like Micah Parsons. The Broncos would have to be really high up on that list. Packers play a lot of zone coverage behind it. So Bo Nix has got to be accurate and decisive to win against that, which has been kind of up and down for him. So I think it's a very good test for Bo Nix. He's at least at home, but the team total is only at 20 points, and he's not as reliant as a scrambler this year than he was previously, which has kind of hurt him in fantasy.
Talk to me about Justin Herbert at the Chiefs. I got into an EPA spat this week with the spreadsheets. What are you expecting here for Justin Herbert at the Kansas City Chiefs?
I mean, they're dealing with a fourth string left tackle at this point, which means a fifth stringer at right tackle. Chris Jones against whatever we're calling the interior there. It's pathetic what the Chargers have. And Greg Roman kind of just doubles down that that Justin Herbert's just going to stay in the pocket even more. And he's going to be the one to bail us out of the situation, which is extremely unfair to him. And then here comes the Spagnuolo blitzes, and the running backs couldn't handle last week's. So I'm very nervous here. And the prediction markets agree with me. They're only projected for 18 points, which is less than Tyler Shough and JJ McCarthy and Bryce Young.
Sounds like to me, though, that you're saying that an overly negative environment can create some negative plays, and that can destroy his EPA. But that doesn't mean that he had a bad performance if he had a terrible EPA.
I think it was a awesome, gutsy narrative performance from Justin Herbert. He did miss some throws. The EPA obviously should have been bad because the team is really bad. And then also I'll agree with them that if you are going to cite any stat, EPA is the best one. So I think that was their argument. You both had good arguments. It was a pleasure to see this conversation unfold.
Tyler Shough against the Carolina Panthers. This is your quarterback 20. Last time he faced off against the Panthers, he forced J.C. Horn to magically fall down 3 times, and that led to about 130 of his 160 passing yards.
Yes, And since then, now he's just like taken off, so he might not even have to do
literally running
magic. Yeah, just going crazy. Zone read, scramble stuff, breaking plays, throwing the ball down the field. Tyler Shuck's kind of got it going on right now. Nick Underhill posted a cool column talking about how the staff appreciates how old he is. And that's actually been really helpful for his rookie season because he's like picking up concepts a lot faster than the typical rookie quarterback. So all those years of season-ending injuries is actually played to his benefit right now because he just understands ball more than a lot of rookie quarterbacks because he's 36.
26?
46.
Yeah, this one would be really interesting. I mean, he has been adding these rushing elements, but I feel like the more that he keeps it on zone reads, I don't know if that is going to be like truly a consistent element of his game.
No,
that might have been kind of like a not one-off performance, but I don't think every time now the edge, the fill player is going to, or the read player, I should say, is going to attack the running back that ferociously, and them literally not having a single defender on that side to go untouched for these runs.
Yeah, that was definitely more of a blitzkrieg surprise.
But yeah, I mean, again, he gives dudes shots down the field, and whenever he elongates plays, it's like up and to the right, and he finds a spot, and then he's letting it rip down the field on these like moonshot sideline throws. So those can hit. Those can 100% hit.
Yep.
Also, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, basically every single start he's had, at worst, it's quarterback 12, quarterback 10, quarterback 8. Are you a big fat hater for having Jacoby Brissett as quarterback 21 here?
Yeah. Well, let's just recenter this conversation. He's going to have 3 backup offensive linemen against whatever we're calling the Texans defensive pass rush. And then no Marvin Harrison. So now we got Michael Wilson going up against an all-pro caliber corner. So we'll see. He's going to drop back a ton because they can't run the ball at all. But you have to worry about like first downs and interceptions and that type of stuff. If Jacoby Brissett balls out here, then I mean, we're going to have a major conversation about what's going to happen with the Cardinals.
Well, he's already the team's starting quarterback next year.
I think he most likely is going to be, but this would like fully cement it. But once again, left tackle, right tackle, and a veteran guard are all out.
That just means another 45 dropbacks for Jacoby.
Yes, I agree with that.
Some might say his right tackle has been out for months.
Yes, he doesn't have one. He hasn't had a left guard either for this entire season.
Yeah, Paris Johnson being out though is a big deal.
That one, and that's the new part.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is next for you as quarterback 22. We got to see the 26-year-old arm from Aaron Rodgers last week, where he wakes up on the day and he's like, man, I've got it. I'm going to hit these tight window bucket throws all across the field. I think the issue with being at his age is you don't wake up every single Sunday and have that ability anymore.
Well, he gets an extra day of rest. It's Monday Night Football, so there's at least that. He's going to be down to his 3rd string left tackle, which makes me a little bit nervous. We talked about the Dolphins are so well coached on defense. Now, that gets a lot more limited when you're facing Rodgers, who's seen everything. But it's been kind of the same thing for Rodgers for the entire season, except for last week, where if he doesn't like the picture, he's throwing the ball like within a half second underneath. So that's just kind of how both offenses operate. It's actually the Dolphins and the Steelers right now. Like there's a lot of kind of overlap in how those pass games are kind of constructed. So mediocre team total. Hopefully we get those 26-year-old legs. He was low-key scooting. That was the fastest I've seen him run since he left Green Bay for that touchdown.
I would say no, but who knows? Next is JJ McCarthy. What are you expecting for 9 at the Dallas Cowboys and that secondary, which is allowing, as we talked about in the wide receiver ranking show, the most points to wide receiver ones, but we know they have, some pass rush and some disruption up front now too.
Yeah, their defensive line's a lot better. They say they're going to play like Logan Wilson more, if that matters to you. Their second linebacker spot is getting a little bit better due to some returns from injury. They have no answers in the secondary, so it just comes down to can these like line drive throws, which look awesome when he completes them, and looks terrible because he didn't put that much touch on his throws. If he misses, it just comes down to like, we have to connect on those to some degree this week. He can run around a little bit. He did hit the seam ball to the tight ends this last week, and then also made some like pretty ridiculous decisions, I'll say, and did spray a couple throws. So don't let the scoreboard fool you. Like, that was not like he's turned the corner situation. It was better, but it was still, I thought, pretty lackluster in general. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings tried to hide him again. They was really like run, pass. I think that we can see that double down, even if that's running right at Quinnen Williams.
Bryce Young sits at quarterback 24 for you. The NFC South is on a silver platter here for the Panthers. I mean, if they win the next 2 weeks, by week 17 kicking off, they are hosting a playoff game, and the final 2 weeks of the season do not matter for them. Wow. So what could go wrong?
Truly, you tell me, because I mean, trying to get Bryce Young, if he's going to look like a backup or look like one of the GOATs, is, I've kind of given up on which week it's supposed to be. The Saints are like, I think, a well-coached defense that are missing.
It's a good defense.
Yeah. They don't have like a lot of like real difference makers though, which is why I wanted to bring up Brandon Staley previously. So I don't know with Bryce. I don't even know which lineman, if it matters. They kind of figure that part out. So you guys tell me if anyone's cracked the code on if Bryce Young is good or not on any given week, please let me know, because I can't figure it out.
I'll say this: for as much as Bryce Young has destroyed the Atlanta Falcons over the last 2 years, he has really struggled against the Saints. Again, I think it's at worst an average defense, and sometimes this looks like a really solid defense. And they kind of weaponize Alontae Taylor in certain ways in this matchup a lot. But I mean, if there's ever a time to make this happen, it's this week, coming out of a bye week, when you've had some negative tape and I would say called offenses against the Saints defense. Yeah. And you had a bye week to figure it out. So go out there and do it.
Move them ahead of Rodgers and McCarthy. I feel better about that situation. You sold me.
Look, I didn't try to sell you on anything.
Well, it was a good.
I've been showing some. How can you not have pessimism of how this thing ends out negative if you have watched the Carolina Panthers over the last 7 years? You know,
I know it's. I have no feel for Bryce Young. He's the DK Metcalf of quarterbacks to me.
Same size and can run the same speed and lift the same amount of weights too.
And the fact that I can't get him right in the ranking for my life.
Tua Tagovailoa at the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've already covered the TJ Watt situation of a dry needling thing. Hopefully he's okay. I mean, he had not emergency, but surgery on his collapsed lung. And so he'll be out of this one. That's a big deal for Tua, because still, despite how good the Dolphins are playing, Tua still has 1 or 2 plays per game where he looks terrible, rough, throwing ducks, making a terrible decision, taking a ill-timed sack. But without their best pass rusher, that will be more difficult to do for the Steelers defense.
Yeah. Don't you just like, when you're watching Tua, he's always been limited in some ways, but I feel like there's just something disturbingly off about his, like, where his athleticism is right now. Like he's like no longer really accurate.
He can't elongate anything.
Yeah, but that's always been the case. Maybe it's even worse than where it was. To me, his like arm talent has just kind of disintegrated. Like, he's never like thrown with power, but for a while, like, you can make the argument that he was like one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. I would say like that's like not even the discussion anymore. So I can't explain why that's been the case all of a sudden. They're really trying to hide him because the ground game is just fantastic. Like, it's like literally a joy to watch what the Dolphins are doing with pullers, like running between the tackles, even though Devon Achane weighs like $190. The spin moves that he has, like, it really is like fascinating to watch this Dolphins offense, because it's one of like the more enjoyable experiences, despite the quarterback he's fully regressed.
They're 3-point underdogs in this game too. I mean, I understand that it's on the road, but I think just overall the Dolphins have been playing better football than the Steelers if you take into consideration like the last month and a half. But yeah, I could be wrong. Cam Ward is next for you. This is at the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, that offense is just totally unwatchable, right?
It really is. I mean,
it's so bad. He's like throwing to, and so here's the issue. Every single week you watch him still throwing to the same dudes, and you see a cool throw or 2 or 3 or 4, but then if he then has a bad game throwing to really bad players and behind a bad offensive line that is also regressing, I would say, then it looks like the worst team in the NFL.
Well, they probably are the worst team in the NFL. That drop that Van Jefferson had on the triple A gap blitz where he's retreating, Jordan loving it off of his back foot, that drop, that one really was tilting. Still not running around enough. The 49ers play a lot of zone coverage, and they're dealing with backups everywhere. So I will say, like, if the offensive line has been a problem, the 49ers have not been able to solve it since Bosa and everybody else has been injured. So like maybe has a little bit more time to kind of chuck it down the field. And then I would like to see him run the ball a little bit more.
All right. The Cleveland Browns are projected for only 15 3/4 points. By the way, the aforementioned Titans are at 16. We're going to get to some even worse projected totals here in the final
Welcome
three.
to December.
So this is all red, dark red, and hell in terms of projected team totals. Anything you want to say about Shedeur Sanders on the road at the Browns with like a -10 wind chill here?
Yeah, weather's terrible. He's dealing with a backup left tackle, center, right guard, and right tackle. He threw a hospital ball to Cedric Tillman, so he's going to miss with a concussion. David Njoku is out. Dylan Sampson's out. Jerome Ford is out. So Shedeur is playing with a bunch of guys he was throwing the ball to when he wasn't allowed first team practice reps. So he's got all of his third stringers in with him into Chicago and next to that frozen lake. And we'll see. Like, he's going to have a backup center. Like the 2-point conversion, not the one that he wasn't a part of, but the one where he fumbled it, that was with the backup center. So that's they're gonna have to get a bunch of things right immediately. He was still drifting in the pocket a little bit too much for me. He did hang in there for a couple big time throws here. Bears defense is healthier. No Kyler Gordon, but we're dealing with like legitimately like third stringers for the Browns, right, like for most of their starting offense right now.
I understand the Bears struggle to rush the passer and they've had injuries at secondary and even at linebacker and all this stuff. But if like Dennis Allen can't slow down this version of the Browns, then like he should basically be one and done in Chicago. Well,
it gets worse.
Kenny Pickett's on the board.
Oh yeah.
On his second team this season was with Shedeur Sanders in training camp. Now he's the starting quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders projected for the worst total of the week at 13.5 points against the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that Kenny Pickett spent time with last year.
Yeah, this is the revenge game for Kenny Pickett here. Tiny hands in Philadelphia is supposed to be freezing.
Can Kenny Pickett have revenge against anyone? He was mistakenly drafted in the first round, then has been given millions of dollars every single season. It is more of a thank you matchup. Like a, wow, you allowed me to have a career matchup, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It's a lot more fun just to say revenge, though. Look, the schematics for the Raiders are still very bad, but the reality is the offensive line just gets, when you get bull rush and everyone's just on your back, there's no coaching around that. I did want to point out one thing for like the Brock Bowers part. Last week, the Broncos just moved Patrick Surtain, who doesn't even like travel with everybody. They would just like shadow him against Brock Bowers. So like the tight end mismatch, like, oh, our tight end's so good he's a mismatch, becomes a lot less fun when they just stick opposing corners on him. And that's what the Raiders are going to have to deal with because they have no other wide receivers to speak of. So Patrick Surtain, Brock Bowers is in the dirt, in line. And Patrick Surtain was just like lining like right up against him. Like you don't see that. You don't see corners against inline tight ends. And that's just the status of the Raiders. So like the Brock Bowers stuff, he's still going to be fine in fantasy enough. But if he's going to have to go up against like legit outside cornerback ones now, it becomes like a lot less fun for Brock Bowers too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're just going to line up Cooper DeJean across from him or Quinyon Mitchell, and that's it.
Yeah.
Then who you throwing?
It's tough. Yeah, Trey Tucker in the flats. Like this
is going to be a low ADOT gift basket game from Kenny Pickett to this Eagles defense.
Gift basket. That's
what it is.
I like that. You need to stick with that one. That's a good one.
Here we go. Indianapolis Colts projected for 14.25 points as their season comes crumbling down and down. But this is like one of those films that everyone says you can't watch it, but you have to.
Yeah.
You got to. You got to see what happened and how everything came crumbling down because Phillip Rivers is the freaking starting quarterback against the worst possible matchup in the Seattle Seahawks. Your expectations are what?
I hope he can survive, man. He's such a nice guy. Let's hopefully the missing right tackle isn't going to end it for him. Hopefully it's not, you name the Seattle Seahawk defender just crashing down on him. I was going to ask you, is this a image from 2020 or is this the updated 2025 image for the graphic right here?
They probably just kept the same exact one, I'm assuming.
More flattering.
Yeah. I would assume so. I don't know if you saw the interaction in his opening presser where immediately one of the reporters asked, "Hey, what's your playing weight?"
Yeah, no.
And he's just like, "I don't know, man. I haven't weighed myself in forever." Which was hilarious when we also got, was it Rossini? Someone said that he was in the best shape he's been in like 5 years. So like those are kind of counterintuitive. But,
yeah.
What do you expect?
I think he's going to be able to complete enough passes to keep the offense at least at the watchable stuff, but it's going to be extremely limited, and nobody against the Seahawks has a chance really. So
I guess my question is, do you think he's going to be willing to hold the football long enough, like Jacoby Brissett against this defense, which led to 2 fumble sixes in the same game?
No.
Or is it just going to be catch, throw, and is it going to be the Gardner Minshew-esque offense here from Shane Steichen?
Hell yeah. It's going to be RPOs, get the ball as quick as you can. I think maybe in his contract, it said, if my jersey is not spotless, then you guys are getting sued. That's going to be the offense. We're getting the ball out so quickly here. It's fascinating.
But the crazy part is, and I'm hoping this is the case, is that we'll get Phillip Rivers for the remaining parts of the season. This isn't a 1-week game. This is the rest of the year. Now, he has to get through Seattle in order to do it.
I know.
So.
Riley Leonard, by the way, is full participant. So they've chosen the Phillip Rivers lifestyle. And
I didn't think Riley Leonard was unplayable or unwatchable last week. So it's an interesting choice, but we'll see what happens. I'm happy for the choice. I want to see.
I'll say this. I'm going to take some hires on the Phillip Rivers stuff. I just watched Kirk Cousins, who also is extremely limited. Throw for almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He's been practicing NFL football for the last 5 years.
Right. But your mind is what matters the most here,
Okay. What do you think the Phillip Rivers passing yards higher or lower is?
I might have seen it, but I think I've also forgot. It's 150 yards, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 152. He's at 26.5 pass attempts, which is very low when you consider they are 13.5 underdogs here. I mean, that is basically we're going to surrender an entire fourth quarter and not pass the football.
I think that's the one I'm going to be. Is there completions? Could we get to 17 completions? What is
it's 16.5.
That's where I'm going to be.
You're going to take the higher in the 16.5 completions?
It's not a lot. I mean, Phillip Rivers would back in the day. He would when Minshew was going and stuff. The scam is good with Steichen.
Hayden, here's the one. I have to take this one. Fumbles lost higher or lower at a half, and he's not a 1.78x for a fumble lost.
No, he's not getting hit. He's not getting hit.
He's getting hit.
No, Shane Steichen, he said it.
No, he is getting hit.
You are getting protected. This ball is coming out.
No, he's getting hit. 100%.
I'm thinking the other side.
They even have his completion percentage on here, Hayden.
Ooh.
What do you think his projected completion
whatever 16.5 is divided by 26.5? 60?
Yeah, 59.3% completion rate.
Yeah.
However you want to play the Phillip Rivers game this week, we've got it over on Underdog.
Well, yeah, the lines are not exactly accurate. They are way off in one direction or the other. So this is one where you got to circle it up. You got to enjoy it. I would say game of the week.
Also, if you want to get really spicy, if he has a rushing or receiving touchdown, that's at an 11.25x.
You own the company. That's severely mispriced. You should literally own the company.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, the guy who is more than half his age is also starting across from him. Not across from him, next to him, I should say, in these rankings. And that is Brady Cook. I mean, how demoralizing is it to Brady Cook to be ranked last on this list by you?
Well, I mean, Brady Cook is worse than this Phillip Rivers.
It's not my rankings. It's your rankings.
I mean, The NFL spoke. They said Phillip Rivers off the street is better than the undrafted free agents that have been available the last couple of years, and I tend to agree. It's not like he's throwing to a bunch of studs.
And he's facing off against, I mean, he has a good offensive line in front of him, but it's Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen and
they're
all these
healthy
guys.
again.
And Campanelli, who like can throw some, I think, interesting things in a team that, at one point this year, and they might still be leading the league in turnovers, all that type. So we might get like a 5 turnover game from this Jaguars unit. Okay, let's quickly touch the tight ends. We've kind of spoken a lot about a number of them throughout this conversation. The top 3, Trey McBride, George Kittle, and Brock Bowers. Anything you want to add about those names?
Well, that I had Kyle Pitts above Brock Bowers before last night.
You had Kyle Pitts as your tight end 3.
Yeah, I'll take that as a win. That, by the way, that was the 3rd best tight end performance of all time. So,
yep,
crazy stuff.
I mean, we did kind of hint at it in Stats versus Film over the last 2 weeks.
Hell yeah.
2 weeks ago, mentioned, I think it was against the Jets. He was getting legit manufactured tunnel screens, all that type of stuff, and then with Drake London continuing to be out, like you talked about this week, it was more downfield, and then we basically got both versions of that there on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, he's gonna get a humongous bag. He looks awesome. For the remaining guys. Well, the Brock Bowers one I think is the most difficult one because I mean George Kittle projected for a bunch of points. We talked about the linebacker that he's going to pick apart. Trey McBride's automatic. Brock Bowers more up and down. We mentioned Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, and then I just also wanted to just mention it again. If opposing ones are just going to go shadow him into the inline position, then Brock Bowers stuff becomes a little bit more challenging. So we'll see.
Then the other top 6, Dalton Kincaid, who did play last week, albeit was tight end 3 in snaps, but he's imperative for them to, I think, beat the New England Patriots. Then you have Harold Fannin. Again, terrible weather, 16-point total, but he's their most consistent pass catcher on that team, and David Njoku's out. And then you have Mark Andrews, who we mentioned the quarterbacks. The Ravens have really struggled in the red zone this season. The Bengals have been horrific against tight ends. What does that equal? Their best red zone pass catcher is Mark Andrews. I wouldn't be surprised if he catches 2 touchdowns this week.
Neither, but I think all these guys are in great spots. So with Kincaid, he was a full participant in practice. We're not going to deal with snow like he did last week. And then he had 7 targets. He got all 7 passes for 110 yards against the Patriots. I think the Patriots linebackers are fairly slow. So I think it's a good matchup for Dalton Kincaid. Harold Fannin's the only guy available. He played 90% of the snaps without David Njoku, who left last game really early. He's underneath, over the top. It hasn't mattered. By the way, Harold Fannin caught 117 passes in college. Like, this should not be a surprise. Like, he was a total stud. And then with Mark Andrews, Cincinnati Bengals defense is the worst in about 2 decades against tight ends. Maybe of all time.
Next tier, Travis Kelce, Brenton Strange, Mike Gesicki this high because T. Higgins is out. I mean, the on-off splits there with T. Higgins being in and out are staggering. I would expect Jamar Chase to play more outside, and then that gives Mike Gesicki as the big power slot role. And then Hunter Henry, Theo Johnson, and Colson Loveland.
Yeah, so this is where the matchups get a little trickier. Kelce got Derwin James and Henley at linebacker, so that's tougher. Mike Gesicki, that's 1.7 yards per route when T. Higgins has not been on the field over the last 2 seasons. That is like really, really high-end stuff. The problem is big slot against the Ravens means you get big slot himself, Kyle Hamilton. So it's going to be a tougher matchup for him, but you got to roll the dice. Brenton Strange, great spot for him. 4th highest team total. Jets are a good matchup for him.
All right, closing things out. AJ Barner, Isaiah Likely. I had to dig for the Colby Parkinson headshot, but we got there. And he's ahead of Tyler Warren and Jake Ferguson and Juwan Johnson. That is pretty stunning to me.
Well, Colby Parkinson, if you guys have not been monitoring, he, in the last 5 games, he's the tight end 16 in usage. He's averaging almost 10 half PPR points. Tyler Higbee's been out. He runs the most routes in 1 tight end sets, which we talked about. So, and they're projected for 31 points in a dome game. So he's definitely in range for like a touchdown and whatnot. I guess like the big one is we got to settle in on Tyler Warren. So like, what are we supposed to do? They're projected for 14 points. Like, it's Devin Witherspoon.
If you're saying they're going to pass it quickly, I feel like Tyler Warren is a...
Well, I'm talking about 17 completions here. We're talking about 17.
Well, and it's Nick Amon-Worry he's going to be facing off against a lot.
And Devon Witherspoon, who's a freak, and they also have good linebacker play. So I think it's just a really tough matchup. Team total's too low for me, so I would just go touchdown hunting with Barner, who's top 3 in projected points. Isaiah Likely keeps fumbling the ball in the end zone, but theoretically he has multiple touchdown upside, and then Colby Parkinson's projected for the most points. So like all those teams are projected for twice as many points as Tyler Warren is, and those guys play enough snaps. Barner's like maybe the sneaky play. You love him, but this is a perfect spot for him to go crazy.
I also think Juwan's a sneaky play here.
Yeah, he's been solid. Yeah, he's been solid.
Had a really good game the last time they faced off against the Panthers. Panthers linebacker's not great. Yeah. Safety play has been hit or miss at times. And yeah, they're treating Juwan like a certified pass catcher on that team.
Yeah, pretty flat tier between 7 to 19 or whatever, all pretty much the same.
All right, that does it. We'll be back on Sunday morning for all of the weather updates. Some of those yellow tags might go to orange tags, so keep an eye on those. Good luck in the fantasy playoffs. And again, join us on Sunday morning here on the channel. And yeah, again, go play an underdog. Link in the description down below. Talk to y'all soon. See ya.